Want to bring back in my think tank tonight. Criminal defense attorney Danielle Moss is with us, chief jailer, former section commander for major crimes, Lieutenant Colonel Adam Lee, and criminal defense attorney Lawrence Zimmerman. All right, let's start here with the verdict, right? The verdict in this case, not guilty on the attempted manslaughter. Thoughts about that?
Well, let's start with the core is police officers have a tough job. There's no doubt about it. And they have this video, and I guess it looks like something is going on. I personally think the police officer made an error in judgment. I think he could have done a better job to evaluate the situation. No surprise, a passerby thinks someone has a gun. With all the gun violence we have these days, someone sees a shiny object. But clearly, there was dispatch saying it's not a gun. You have a guy on the ground with his hands up. The supposed gun is not being pointed at anybody, and this guy's on SWAT. So I don't buy into the excuse. I mean, obviously the jury put themselves in the cop's shoes. It's all in the video, and they didn't think it was intentional. And I'm sure the police officer didn't wake up that day thinking, I want to go out and kill somebody or try to kill somebody. I guess that's why they decided to settle on the conviction of negligence. I just think we have to do better in training our police officers for that tough job.
Lieutenant Colonel, as you watch that video, what are you seeing?
I think you got an overzealous officer who wanted to be a hero that day. I think that's what it's all about. There were many other officers that were closer to the action that saw clearly that it wasn't a weapon. There was some communication that went through the radio that said, hey, doesn't look like a gun or whatever. He wasn't paying attention. He was going to get equipment or whatever. He was involved with other activities while this important communication was going on. And if you're in his position as a sharpshooter, you have to be 100% in the game. You cannot get distracted. You cannot use the excuse, oh, I didn't hear some communication that was on the radio that really was very important, as it turns out. So I think the elements of the crime fit. I mean, first degree culpable negligence, according to Florida law, is what he really did. But I think it rises to a higher level than that because the man could have been killed, or that
Either one could have been here.
Right.
But this is a win for the defense, I would think.
Absolutely. But I completely agree with what you're saying, and I think we have to start top to bottom and start to teach our officers a little bit about patience, really, and allowing themselves just that extra second to stop and evaluate everything. Also, too, as we were saying earlier about the problems that we're having with the growing number of autistic people coming in to play with society, that our officers especially need to know what's going on with them, need to have a better understanding of what they're dealing with so that we can avoid situations like this in the future.
Yeah, I think the toughest fact are all the other officers are there who don't fire.
Right.
Right? And you look at, okay, that's what they're seeing. And again, I look at that, you know, you can see it a couple different ways depending on the vantage point, the angle. Is the negligence, the shooting, is the negligence not paying attention to the radio transmissions? Or it doesn't really matter?
The negligence is the shooting. Like I said, he was not paying attention. He missed some valuable information that would have probably changed his decision on whether or not to take a shot from 50 yards away, which is way too far when you have other officers that are closer to the action than you.
Yeah, in the video you see one that's much, much closer. All right, coming up next.